Do you know about a sickness called facial arteriovenous malformation? I was born with it. It made a big bump grow in the middle of my face. This sickness is something you're born with. It happens when your arteries and veins, which usually do different jobs, get connected. This lets blood flow between them, making a big blood clot. I had to have lots of surgeries when I was young, but each surgery made my face look even more strange. When I was in school, especially in elementary school, the boys in my class teased me a lot. Because of this problem with my face, I felt really bad about myself. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't hide it. I thought I would never find love or get married. I thought no one could love someone who looked as ugly as me. At least that's what I thought until I met him. Sophia, used to be very negative and lacked confidence, and others could see that about me. While what people said about my illness affected me a bit, it was mainly my family, especially my sister, who made me feel worse. You see, my sister Mia is really beautiful. She has pretty eyes with double eyelids, long eyelashes, and a perfect nose. People often say how lovely she looks. My parents were really proud of her, and they often bought her new clothes, shoes, and hair accessories. But when it came to me, my illness made me look different, and they acted like I didn't matter. They'd say things like, "It would be a shame if Mia was seen with such an ugly sister." Because of this, my parents didn't want me to spend too much time with my sister. Mia didn't care about my illness at all. She treated me like any sister would, even sharing her toys and hair accessories with me. She stood up for me when people said mean things about my face. She was always there when I needed her. I'm so grateful for her kindness. But even though I love Mia and appreciate her support, my parents always favored her. They didn't show much interest in me. For example, even if Mia got average grades, they praised her a lot, saying, "Mia, you're amazing. You're not just pretty, but you're also smart. We're so proud of you." But when I did well on a test, they didn't seem to care. They'd say things like, "Just being smart isn't enough in life. Even if you're not very smart, you can still do well if you're good looking and friendly. But since you're not pretty, you'll have a tough time." Whenever I found a nice dress I liked, they'd say, "That dress would look great on Mia, but it won't suit you. People will laugh at you if you wear it." And when I wanted to try makeup, they discouraged me, saying, "Makeup won't help much in your case. It's a waste of time." They always compared me to Mia, and everything I did seemed to disappoint them. It made me lose confidence more and more. Mia tried to stand up for me against our parents, but it only made things worse. That's when I realized I didn't really belong in our family, and school wasn't any better. Boys in my class teased me with mean nicknames like monster or face weapon. Some even avoided me, afraid they might catch my illness if they touched me. Even in middle school, things didn't get much better. Some boys would make faces just because I was near them. Even though no one said anything directly to me, I could hear whispers about me. But what really hurt was when I became the target of a cruel game. There was a game where the loser had to confess their feelings to someone in the class, and I was often picked. Of course, I knew they were only confessing because they lost the game, so I always said no. But then they'd go around saying, "I got rejected by that monster girl." One boy even yelled at me for turning him down, saying, "Don't act all high and mighty just because it's a game." At the time, it felt really unfair to me, but I was convinced that my face was a problem. I thought I made people uncomfortable just by being around. I felt guilty. Throughout elementary and middle school, I didn't have any good memories with boys. But there was one exception, just one time, when I fell in love with a boy in my class. It happened in my sophomore year of high school. There was a boy in my class who I ended up sitting next to after the seats were shuffled. He treated me like anyone else, without making fun of me or avoiding me because of my face. He'd say good morning to me every day. I knew he didn't have any romantic feelings for me, but his simple greeting brought me so much happiness amidst all the teasing and avoidance. Naturally, I started to like him. I didn't really want to date him or anything like that. I just wanted our nice interactions to continue. But as time went on, I started to realize that I had feelings for him. After thinking about it a lot, I decided to ask my sister for advice. She told me, "Just be honest with him about how you feel." So after a lot of thinking, I left a letter on his desk telling him how I felt. A few days later, something strange was happening in class when I got there. People were whispering and looking at me. Then the boy came up to me and asked, "Did you leave this letter on my desk?" I nodded silently, looking down at the ground. Suddenly, I heard a ripping sound above me. Pieces of my torn letter were falling around me. It's a hassle when things like this happen. What will you do if rumors start because of this? You fell for me just because I said hi to you. You're so clueless about love. I didn't mean anything by it. If I gave you the wrong idea, I'm sorry, he said. Then the whole class started clapping and cheering. People were saying things like, wow, you're brave, and that's kind of sad, isn't it? After that, everything's a blur. The next thing I knew, I was home. But I don't remember how I got there. All I could feel was guilt and sadness after that. I couldn't bear to go back to school after what happened, so I stopped going altogether. When my parents found out, instead of supporting me, they said, well, he had a point. You caused trouble, so you owe him an apology. They got mad at me for skipping school over something small and tried to make me go back, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. In the end, I dropped out of high school and isolated myself at home. My older sister was worried about me and tried to reach out, but our parents were harsh. They'd yell at me every morning or barge into my room to insult me, saying things like, you're a disappointment, or we wish we never had you. Every day, I felt more and more hopeless, wondering why I even existed. My sister noticed how bad things were and talked to our grandparents on our mom's side. The next day, they came over to listen to my side of the story. When they heard what happened at school and how our parents reacted, they were furious. They told our parents, we'll take care of her, and rescued me from that situation. My grandparents didn't give up on me, even when I felt hopeless. They faced me with love and support, alongside my sister, and little by little, I started to heal. Though my thoughts of ending my life quieted down, I couldn't shake off my fear and distrust of guys, no matter how hard I tried. But my grandpa always lifted me up, saying, you'll find happiness in your own way without needing to get married. We just want you to find joy in whatever path you choose. Forget about that guy who hurt you. Dwelling on him is a waste of time. You have so many bright futures ahead, even though we may not have much time left. My grandma was a constant source of comfort, telling me that as long as I was happy, that's all that mattered. She'd compliment me, saying things like, your skin is radiant, I envy you, or your eyes sparkle like jewels. My sister would often come over to our grandparents' place, and we'd chat and bond. We'd read magazines together, talk about cute makeup, and just enjoy each other's company. After living like this for about 3 years, I started feeling motivated to do something more. I decided to study again to get my high school diploma, which I eventually achieved. Then, I began searching for work I could do from home, and slowly started making money. It wasn't as much as what others made in regular jobs, but compared to the days when I felt trapped and hopeless, I felt like I had come a long way. Living at my grandparents' house, I was still scared of people's comments about my looks, so I stayed indoors. That's when my parents suddenly showed up one day, without even a phone call beforehand. They barged in, saying they needed to talk to me. Out of the blue, they said, there's a marriage proposal for you. The guy is the son of someone important in a medical foundation. He apparently has his own issues and struggles to find a partner, so they're suggesting you. Isn't this great? He's wealthy, and he's willing to take someone like you, who's seen as a burden on society. I was shocked by this sudden news, but my grandparents stepped in to support me. They argued that it wasn't fair to make such a big decision without considering my feelings. My dad, sounding convincing, said, this might be her only chance. She's been through so much because of how she looks. Why not see this as an opportunity for her to be happy? I looked at the guy's photo in the marriage document. His face was partly covered by his hair, but I could tell he was overweight and had a peculiar look. I guessed he might also be facing pressure to get married, or he might have some unusual preferences. But even if I said no to the proposal, it seemed like negotiations with the other family were already happening. They were wealthy, and my parents would probably try to push me into the marriage. Despite my own feelings, I felt like I had to accept the marriage proposal to protect my grandparents from any potential trouble. When I said I would accept, my grandparents were shocked. They hugged me tightly, trying to convince me otherwise. You don't have to agree to something so ridiculous, they said. But through tears, I told them, Grandma, Grandpa, until now, I felt like life had no meaning. But because you were there for me, I found joy in living. I can never thank you enough. But I don't want to cause you any more trouble, so I've decided to go through with this marriage proposal. Maybe, like Dad said, this is my only chance. My grandparents cried silently and hugged me tightly. A few days later, I had to meet the guy from the proposal, Matthew, and his parents. I didn't expect this meeting to change anything. Matthew seemed shy and kept his head down. His hair covered most of his face, and his skin looked rough. He spoke so softly that I sometimes couldn't hear him. During our meeting, he hardly looked at my face and answered questions with short sentences. I couldn't help but wonder, is this man really going to be my husband? He can barely hold a conversation. But I felt like I had no choice. Both sets of parents were so eager about the marriage, acting like it was already decided. I felt pressured, like I couldn't say no. Eventually, everything was arranged. As the son of a wealthy family, Matthew provided us with a luxurious apartment filled with expensive appliances and furniture. But our conversations didn't flow well. It was like he didn't even see me. He was so quiet all the time. His constant silence started to weigh on me, so I tried to start a conversation. "Why did you agree to this marriage, Matthew?" Surprisingly, he began to take off his shirt. Confused and panicked, I saw that his skin was red and inflamed. He explained, "I have a skin condition called psoriasis. It's not contagious, so don't worry. But because of how it looks, I've never had any romantic experiences. People even spread rumors that I had an STD, which isn't true. And because of my appearance, my parents don't want anything to do with me. They probably arranged this marriage to get rid of me. I'm sorry for dragging you into this." After he explained, he put his shirt back on and bowed deeply to me. I noticed some inflammation on his hairline, and I realized he was growing his bangs long to hide it. "I understand. Please don't worry," I said. "I'm in a similar situation." When he looked up, I told him everything about my past. Hearing my story about high school, he started to cry. "I can't believe someone would treat you like that. It must have been so hard for you. It's awful how people treated you," he said, getting angry on my behalf and offering me comfort. Despite going through his own struggles, Matthew cried and got angry hearing about my past. I couldn't help but think, how kind is this man? When I asked him, he blushed and smiled shyly, saying, "I was thinking the same thing." From that moment on, we spent the whole night sharing our life stories, crying, getting angry, and understanding each other. I tried to learn more about his skin condition and researched different treatments, including diet changes and supplements. I noticed he was picky about food, especially vegetables, so I experimented with different flavors and cooking methods to make meals he enjoyed. Gradually, he started to enjoy eating more and began to feel better physically. We also started doing things like yoga to reduce stress and had many conversations. I saw Matthew's smile grow over time. He never said anything negative about my appearance. Instead, he would blush and say, "You're cute." Once, when I asked if he disliked how I looked, he reassured me, saying, "Not at all. It's part of who you are, and I think it's cute. You've been through so much, but you've stayed strong. I don't think there's another woman who's as strong and wonderful as you," Matthew told me, and those words brought me so much comfort. Over the next few years, we worked on a plan to improve his skin condition. His inflammation started to calm down, and the redness on his hairline became less noticeable. Plus, with his disciplined lifestyle, he lost weight and transformed into a slim and handsome Matthew. I couldn't help but fall in love with him all over again when he trimmed his bangs. It suited him so well. Matthew, who used to be shy about his skin condition, said, "I feel a bit embarrassed to show Sophia." But as he gained confidence, people at his office started to see him differently. He hadn't told anyone about his disease before, thinking they wouldn't understand. But when he finally opened up, he was surprised that everyone accepted him. They even said, "Why didn't you tell us earlier? Trust us more." One day, as we were enjoying our time together, Matthew suddenly suggested, "Hey, what do you think about having a wedding ceremony?" Even though I had become a bit more positive since marrying him, the idea of facing a large crowd still scared me. When I hesitated, he reassured me, saying, "If you really don't like the idea, we don't have to do it." But I thought it would be a nice way to thank the people at my company who supported me. And it's all thanks to you, Sophia, that I can even think about this. The old me would have never considered a wedding because I was too ashamed of my skin condition. But with your help, my symptoms have improved, and I feel like I can face the future more confidently. His kind words touched me, and after thinking it over, I decided to take a step forward and agreed to have a wedding ceremony. Since I didn't have many friends, I only invited my parents, grandparents, and my sister. However, less than 4 months before the wedding, My sister found out she was pregnant and decided to avoid gatherings for safety reasons. So in the end, only my parents and grandparents attended. My grandparents were happy to be there, but my parents clearly weren't thrilled about it. Despite their disapproval, they couldn't refuse due to their status, so they reluctantly came. The same went for Matthew's parents. They didn't seem pleased, but because some of their associates and acquaintances were attending, they reluctantly agreed to come. Both sets of parents were skilled at putting on a facade, so they said things they didn't truly mean in front of the other guests. They'd say things like, "We struggled with his illness, but we're happy to see how well he's grown." Or, "We're proud of our child for facing prejudice with strength." They even pretended to be moved to tears, and some guests, fooled by their false emotions and words, shed sympathetic tears. I couldn't help but feel astonished by their audacity, wanting to appear good despite everything. But Matthew wasn't one to stay silent. Our parents could see that. When it was time for him to speak, he chose to share about his past. He talked about how he faced discrimination in school because of his skin condition, even though it wasn't contagious. People avoided touching anything he touched. Meeting and marrying me had given him hope. He also spoke about my struggles, how I was constantly compared to my older sister and verbally abused by our parents. He mentioned how I was deeply hurt by their words and couldn't even go outside because of cruel comments from classmates about my facial disease in high school. He also shared how he was berated by his parents for his skin condition, being called dirty repeatedly, and he showed proof of their mistreatment. With a determined resolve, Matthew played a recording of his parents' hurtful comments about his skin condition. The recording echoed through the venue, capturing awful statements like, "Your skin disgusts us," and "We regret having a child with such dirty skin." His parents tried to stop it, but it was too late. The stunned silence of the guests spoke volumes, and my parents looked uncomfortable as whispers spread around them. Despite the awkward ending to our wedding, many guests expressed support, saying, "You've been through a lot, and we're here for you." However, this revelation caused a stir later on. It turned out that Matthew's parents were leaders of a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting disabled individuals, advocating for a society where they can live without barriers. The fact that they mistreated their own son, who had a skin condition, contradicted their organization's principles. Criticism and opposition arose, leading them to step down from their leadership roles in the organization. As for my parents, it came to light that they had accepted a hefty dowry to arrange my marriage to Matthew. They were branded as monsters who sold their own child for money by those around them. However, they foolishly squandered the dowry on their own selfish desires and decided to gamble in the stock market without any knowledge, resulting in significant losses. Eventually, they found themselves in debt exceeding $200,000, far surpassing the dowry they received. They had the nerve to ask for our help, but we firmly declined. Despite their persistent attempts, we decided to cut ties with them and move away, changing our phone numbers. Now we're living happily together. It seems like fate truly brought us together. I'm incredibly content at this moment. Though the beginning was rough, meeting and marrying Matthew has brought me immense happiness. Thank you for sticking with me until the end. I hope to catch up with you again in the future.